Hello, dear listener. I have prepared one story for you. Rate it in the comments, whether you liked it or not. I advise you to put on your headphones and listen carefully. And I'll start my story. I'm a police officer and I want to share a story that happened to me on a call one night. It was late when I received a call to investigate a disturbance at a residential address. I immediately headed out, driving through the dark and deserted streets until I arrived at the location. However, when I got there, I realized that the address did not exist. It was as if the place had never been there. I double-checked the address I had been given, but it was correct. I even tried calling the number again, but it was disconnected. Something was definitely not right. But as a police officer, I had a duty to investigate. I stepped out of my car and started to walk around, searching for any clues. The area was eerily quiet, with only the sound of crickets chirping in the background. The darkness was suffocating, and I could barely see anything in front of me. Suddenly, I heard a faint whisper behind me. I spun around, but there was no one there. I shook my head, thinking it was my imagination playing tricks on me, and continued to walk. But the whispering persisted, growing louder and more persistent with every step I took. Then, I saw a shadowy figure dart across the street, disappearing into the darkness. My heart raced as I began to chase after it. But as I turned a corner, I found myself face to face with an empty field. There was no one there. Nothing. I felt a sudden chill run down my spine. I realized then that I was in grave danger. I quickly pulled out my flashlight and drew my gun, ready for anything that might come my way. But then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the whispering stopped. The field became quiet again, and the only sound was my own breathing. I was terrified, but I knew I had to investigate further. I took a step forward, and a sudden gust of wind whipped through the field. I shone my flashlight in the direction of the wind and saw something that made me stop in my tracks. There, in the middle of the field, was a tombstone. It was old and weathered, with a name that had been erased by time. I could feel my heart pounding as I slowly approached it, the whispering growing louder with each step I took. As I reached the tombstone, the wind died down, and the whispering stopped. But suddenly, the tombstone began to glow, emitting an otherworldly light that seemed to be drawing me in. I tried to turn and run, but my legs refused to move. It was then that I heard a voice that seemed to be coming from within the tombstone. It spoke to me, telling me that I was not welcome there, and that I should leave at once. I tried to turn and run again, but I was rooted to the spot. The voice grew louder, and the tombstone continued to glow, growing brighter and brighter until it was all I could see. And then, just like that, everything went black. I woke up in the field, dazed and confused. I had no memory of what had happened, and no idea how much time had passed. To this day, I don't know what happened that night. But I do know one thing. I will never forget the feeling of dread and terror that washed over me as I stood in that empty field, facing the unknown. Subscribe to the channel and write your comments whether you liked the story or not.